About a decade ago, after I got the biggest I'd been in my life, I made a transformation from looking like this, around 30% body fat, to looking like this, closer to 10%. Since then, I've gone to school for exercise science, I've gotten myself shredded even below 10% body fat a couple times, and I've helped hundreds of clients reach their goals. So today I want to share the knowledge I've learned to help you lose your stubborn belly fat, and I'm going to break it down in 4 simple steps. So step 1 is, for any of this to make sense, you need to understand why your body is designed the way it is, because quite frankly, your body isn't going to lose fat the way you want it to. It does it in a way that makes the most sense for survival. And the thing with belly fat is it's going to be the first that goes on, because your belly fat is actually there to protect vital organs. So if it's the first to go on, that means when you come to take it off, it's going to be the last to go. A good way to illustrate this is to think about a roll of paper towels here. When they make a paper towel roll, it starts from here, goes all the way out to the end. Now, if you want to get back to the middle again, you got to strip all the outside off again. That's where your belly fat resides. So what do most people look at when they're trying to lose body fat? They look at their belly because that's what you want to see go, but you're not looking anywhere else. So you end up getting frustrated, feeling like you're not even seeing results, oftentimes even quitting because of it. But the thing is, you actually were seeing results, just not in the areas you were looking, because you can lose fat from anywhere. So you need to make sure you're not only looking just at the scale, number 1, you need to make sure you're paying attention to other things like pictures, and you need to take them from the side, back, and front, and you need to compare them side by side on a screen. If you do not compare them side by side, you will think nothing is happening. You see yourself every single day. You need to take that element out and physically compare. And you also want to pay attention to things like measurements, because when you're in the beginning stages, as you're losing fat, it's going to be a small portion of your overall weight, and the visual differences will be small. But as you lose more weight, while it usually becomes more difficult, the visual differences become much bigger. But step 2 is about making sure you create the perfect calorie deficit. The reason this is so important is because you know now that belly fat is going to be the last to go. But what you probably don't understand is there's something called adaptive thermogenesis, which basically means that your metabolism is going to slow down. As you lose weight, your maintenance calories is going to lower, and over time you have to drop calories more, do more activity to keep the process working. So the big trap most people fall into is they get way too aggressive up front because they want to see these fast results. But the problem is, now your body's adapted, you're already barely eating, you're doing a lot of activity, your body is stuck, and now you're not able to diet long enough to be able to tap into those belly fat stores. So I've got 2 bigger cuts I've done over the last 10 years I want to use as examples to show what I mean. Because if you look at the initial cut I talked about in the beginning of this video, my initial starting calories for that diet was 2,800 calories. By the time I was at the end of the diet, I was down to 2,000 calories. In my cut after a build where I decided to get really shredded, my calories to start that cut were 2,600. By the end, I was down around like 1,950 calories. Granted, my activity levels were much higher than the previous cut. I'll touch more on that though later in the video. Imagine in those 2 scenarios, if I decided, you know what, I want to just see really fast results, and I just went right down to 2,000 calories. Yeah, I would have saw fat loss pretty quickly, but there's no way I would have gotten to these end results you're seeing, because my body would have fought me too hard. It's too adaptive. So you need to create a pace of weight loss that allows you to get all the way there, not some mad dash to the finish line. So how fast should you lose? I typically say anywhere between about 0.5 to 1% of your weight on average per week. In both of my cuts, I actually averaged about 2/3 of a pound per week. And if you do the math on that, that's actually less than 0.5% per week. And it's funny because when I went through that, nobody ever told me, oh, it must not be worth the effort because you're not seeing really fast results. No, they see the end results, they get impressed by it. That's what matters. Nobody gets to their end goal and says, took too long, wasn't worth it. So you need to be patient. Now, step number 3 is about nutrition. Obviously, it plays a massive role. It's very much true that you can't outtrain a bad diet. I'm not saying exercise isn't important. We will talk about that in the last step. But where you probably go wrong with your nutrition is you don't have any accountability with it. And without the accountability, you're just not going to stick to your plan. So the best thing you can do to make sure you get the result is to get the accountability that comes with tracking your intake. When you track, now you know exactly how much you're eating. You can be consistent with that. And then when you do hit plateaus, you know how to make adjustments now, versus just going on some sort of diet with a name, having no clue how much you're eating, and then wondering what to do because you're already eating clean. What are you gonna do? Eat cleaner? It doesn't work that way. So if you haven't been tracking, what I recommend doing is continue to eat the way you've been eating. For the next week though, you're gonna go ahead and track it and take an average for the week, and that's gonna give you a rough idea of where your starting point is, especially if you've been maintaining your weight. Now you know exactly what you need to do, which in terms of how many calories you should eat and how to figure this all out. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do so. In the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna gonna do an updated video on how to know exactly how many calories to eat, how to make adjustments through plateaus, and give you a step-by-step guide. I've got videos like this, but I wanna do a better updated one. But just know, in general, when you're starting your fat loss phase, you wanna make about a 20 to 25% decrease from your maintenance calories. But don't stress about low carb versus low fat or intermittent fasting versus several small meals. These things do not matter. As long as your total calories and your protein are the same, how you space it out, low or high carb, it doesn't matter for fat loss. But notice I did say calories and proteins, so you do want to create a protein target. I recommend around 1 gram per pound of whatever your goal weight is. You can definitely do more. It's super helpful for building muscle, fat loss, helping you feel full. And of course, it's wise to eat plenty of fiber, nutrient-dense foods to help you feel full, they fuel the body well, but also allow yourself some treats in moderation. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to completely avoid sugar. You don't want to go crazy with this stuff, but to be able to sustain these things long term, you need to be doing something that you can do long term. And even when I got super shredded, I didn't avoid any certain foods, so you can have them, just make sure you account for them. Now, the fourth step is about activity. Make sure you don't go anywhere. There's lots to cover in here, and they're all equally important. But honestly, when it comes to activity, the biggest mistake I see so many people make is over-relying on cardio to try to create the results you're after. Now, I'm not saying that cardio is bad for you, that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying don't rely on cardio, and that strength training isn't just for building muscle, it is vastly superior for fat loss as well. So here's what happens when you do cardio. Your heart rate comes up during the activity, you burn extra calories because of that. When you finish the activity, your heart rate comes back down to baseline and you stop burning any additional calories. Not only that, but research has shown that your body tends to adapt relatively quickly to cardio, and you end up burning less calories through the same amount of activity, so you just have to keep doing more and more and more to keep getting results. However, with strength training, you actually keep burning calories afterwards. In fact, research has shown that even for up to 48 hours, you burn additional calories well beyond when the training session is done. Not only that, but when you strength train, you're gonna be building muscle. As you build muscle, muscle is metabolically demanding, and you actually burn additional calories just having more muscle on your frame. It turns you into a calorie burning machine, but it's really important that you make sure you're training hard and close to failure. I don't mean short rest periods and turning your strength training into cardio. I mean making sure you're pushing so those last few reps are very challenging. It's slowing down significantly. Too many people leave way too much in the tank to get the true benefit out of it. So I recommend training between about 3 to 5 days per week, and then you can supplement that with some additional cardio to help get some more calorie burn. But then the question becomes, what about high versus low intensity? And personally, I'm not a big fan of high intensity. The positive of it is that you burn more calories in a shorter period of time, but there's numerous problems behind it. One, if you're already in a calorie deficit and you're training hard and you're doing this high intensity cardio, that's really hard to recover from. Your body has a way of compensating for that and making you more tired, so you move around less throughout the day just in your normal day-by-day life, and you might end up just totally trading those calories burned while feeling like crap. But even more than that, high intensity cardio oftentimes makes you much more hungry. And let's be honest, the inability to deal with hunger is one of the biggest problems most people have to be able to create the fat loss results after. So all those reasons are why I personally love walking, why I especially like incline walking on a treadmill whenever I'm in a fat loss phase. That's my main mode of cardio. Now you might be thinking, well, that's great, Colin, but how many steps should I take? Well, lucky for you, I already have a video that talks about how I personally use walking to get to below 10% body fat. So to figure out how many steps you should take, make sure you check out this video next, and I'll see you in that other video.